I'd rather be decisive and wrong than right.
Oh, yeah.
And people being decisive, people don't wait trying to get the right decision. Be decisive. I think that's such a good place to play rugby from.
Sammy, what a pleasure it is to have you here. What's super exciting about this episode, which I'm loving, is you're gearing up to the final against Bordeaux on the weekend, the Champions Cup final, which is the biggest final in Europe. And you're free enough and cool enough, mate, to sit down with me 2 days out before the final. And we're going to air this show the day after the final. So it's really exciting, mate, for me around having that perspective of what a head coach has done at Northampton around preparing a team for a week, and also your take on culture. So firstly, Sammy, before we get into the normal question, mate, what is it about you that why you're so open? Most coaches, when they're coming to finals week, don't like talking and things like that, but you're here on a podcast sharing, mate.
Well, I think it says more about you, Benny, to be honest. I think you could ask me anything and I'd say yes. And it's always great to chat with you. So I was just happy to get a call and have a chat with you. And no, I think it's, you've got to have perspective to all of it. And it's just a game, and at the end of the day, and obviously it's a great game and it's a big game that I'm really happy to be part of. But life doesn't stop, and I'm happy to. I love chatting with you. So, great opportunity.
Oh, mate, what a pleasure! What a pleasure. So, mate, before we get to the little cultural piece, which I normally ask, I'd like to start with, mate, how's the week been leading up to the final against Bordeaux? Give us a rundown of the feeling and the mood in the camp to date.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because how do you go about managing the people's emotions, people's mindsets, and for certain you're pretty much going to get everyone absolutely wanting to go out there and give it their all. It's not there's you've not got to think about that so much. It's more about keeping the temper to perhaps the emotional side of it, but pulling on it through the week, but not overdoing it too early in the week. So Phil Dowson's done a few little bits where he's talked quite early on the week, and then some of the boys have said their piece around the emotional side of it, and then we've put that to bed pretty much quite early on in the week, and then concentrated on what the actual nuts and bolts that we want to focus on, that we want to be, that give us the best chance of putting the best us on the pitch versus Bordeaux. And then towards the back end of the week, we'll tug on some of that emotional messaging again. So one of the cool things we actually did was we named the team, but instead of we usually do it with pictures, and this week it's Ben Herring, and there's a picture of you that pops up. This week it was a picture of your 12-year-old self, or like 10-year-old self, playing rugby or doing whatever.
Oh, when you announced the team, they came up.
Announced the team with the pictures of their kids and on them as kids, and it was part of the messaging was what would your 10-year-old, 12-year-old self knows that you've got this game coming. How would they want you to act? They'd want you to go out there and just give it an absolute everything you've got, wouldn't they? They wouldn't want you to be worried about, anything. They just want you to give it your absolute best crack and make sure you back yourself. And that was part of the messaging. And it hit home as well. It was a light-hearted fun, because everyone's, who's that? But,
they weren't sure who was in the team.
yeah. Am I in? That's not good.
Love it, mate. That's lovely, mate. That's the balance you're trying to get in a finals week, where you want people to go back to that childhood joy of the game. Is that almost where you're going back to?
Yeah, 100%. And we know we're at our best when we are free, playing rugby with our heads up and attacking and seeing what is in front of us, and a real free headspace. and with a real positive mindset. So the pressures that come with big games are, or can be, the perceived pressure can, make you go into your shell, make you go a bit quiet. And we're trying to just get in there really nice and early that, that's not who we want to be. And part of the chat we've already started talking about earlier on in the week is, irrespective of the result on Saturday, when we're having a beer afterwards, what are we going to be happy that we've done? And what do we want? How do we want that to feel, whether we've won or lost? What are the things we're going to hold ourselves accountable to? And people talked about, you know, putting our game on them, being really positive with our decisions, being not going quiet, and putting our best version of ourselves out there, and so that was again quite a powerful mindset to think about. Win or lose, actually, what are you going to hold yourself? What do you want to feel like? What do you want to be? And actually, if you do all those things that we talked about, and you lose, you can go, fair play. I gave it my absolute best, no regrets. And you know what, Bordeaux were excellent on the day, or whatever. And that's a great place to lose from, isn't it?
Yeah. And what about you, Sammy? What's after the game, you're sitting having a beer, regardless of the result, what do you want as a coach to come back with?
I want us to have the freedom to make decisions, and I know we're going to go. I know we're going to go and be really physical because it's a final, and absolutely you're going to go and give it absolutely everything you've got. I know we're going to be moving as fast as we can. Can our heads be as clear as they are on a Tuesday afternoon when we're running around on our back pitches, making decisions, and striving for that? And I think you can tell when our boys are flying and being really positive with it, and that's why I'm hoping that we get, and then we'll get the best versions of those boys.
So if you see the players playing with freedom, heads up rugby, like talk about, you're happy regardless of the result, but you've done your job during the week as coach.
Yeah, and to a degree, there's some more technical bits that I look after, from a launch perspective. So some of the line out stuff and some of the moves off the bits that I'll also want. I've looked at those, and we're going to use these plays. So I hope that we get the right pictures from those. That's another more technical element of it, and I want to see that. But ultimately, we do all of that stuff when our heads are free. All of that bandwidth that you have is just based on, right, what's in front of me and what's the best way to attack that picture, or what's in front of me, what's the best way to defend that picture, rather than, all the other perceived pressures or.
And what is that balance, Sammy, around? I know you're excellent at that technical piece, but you're also awesome at the people side of stuff. What's the balance in a finals week between chucking a truckload of new moves in versus just making sure the boys are calm? That balance of the off-field stuff. Where's your focus?
Very much about being comfortable, and from the moves perspective, it's minimal, very minimal.
Less than a normal week, or
lots of plays that we've ran a lot of times, so we have a lot of confidence running the stuff we're going to do. And we don't have to think about it too much. We don't have to use much of that bandwidth to go and put these plays on the pitch. And therefore, hopefully, so simple for the guys, really, hopefully freeing them up to, as I say, spend more time with looking up and seeing what's in front of us, and connecting and enjoying the experience and feeling relaxed. So definitely towards that side of that continuum, has been my focus, to hopefully give the boys this week.
Cool. Mate, do you feel any pressure this week as a coach?
Yeah, definitely. yeah, you always want the boys to go out there, and I get nervous. I feel, do I feel pressure? It's a funny way. I mean, the boys are out there doing it, aren't they? What got to be pressured about? Really, it's
Yeah.
mental. But um,
Is there a
yeah,
weight of expectation? Yeah.
well, there is, because you're in a final, and you you know the result is a big thing. It is a huge thing, and um, but you've got to know you don't win it by thinking about winning it. You win it by thinking about performing, and um, I hope that the pressures that I am feeling don't come across to the boys, and I hope that they've seen a very consistent me and a very consistent coaching group, um, saying the same things we say most weeks, or every week, in fact. Um, but I think, to be honest, yeah, there are pressures, and I am nervous, obviously.
I just the quote you said just before is, you're referring to the players, but you said perceived pressure makes you go into your shell. And I was just wondering if that is the same potentially for coaches and leaders of groups. Does that pressure make you go into your shell, or
Yeah.
does it potentially make you be something that you're not sometimes?
Yes, I think that is definitely something to be aware of. And I have had that look in the mirror moment this week, and said, I need to be this person who I am every week. And it was quite a specific technical bit, but I did have that moment, yeah. And I think there's also I think you could go quiet, you could go shy, but you could also try and overcoach and try and over give and try and sort of win the game on a Tuesday with all these tactical elements. I think that could be quite an easy thing to slip into as well. I've got to give them, they've got to see every single line out attack that Bordeaux have ever done, so that, I'll tick that box. And, the players after three are just going, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no benefit to that at all. But if you've shown them it, and then if you're a defense coach, you show them it and they score using it, you can go, well, I showed you it in the week. And it obviously doesn't count for anything. It's mental. But I think, and we've definitely tried well, and I think succeeded to this point of, staying away from that and being very normal, very calm, and keeping our game as simple as we possibly can.
Yeah, well, that's, mate, Sammy, knowing you, I think that's you in a nutshell. You're very calm and composed the whole time, regardless of those man in the mirror moments, mate.
Yeah. I think I'm quick to temper, but very quick to lose that as well. Oh, that's actually quite a good decision.
I love it, mate. Well, here's one which I've enjoyed. There was a lovely little snapshot that went round sort of social media after the Leinster game. It showed the two boxers against your old mate Leo, and it showed your coaching group. Have you seen that one where you guys are all laughing and smiling? Yeah. And he was head down, and there's a very the difference in the two groups couldn't be more contrasted. Is that how you're going to be this weekend? Or was that always?
Look, we always try and have fun. Look, it's different. Look, that is a time frame, isn't it? I think at the time we're winning, have just scored, and they've just conceded. I'm sure if you came to it at a different time, we wouldn't all be smiling. but ultimately, we do try and have fun, because, and we write, and Douse, literally this week, Saracens, we were playing, and we were getting a little bit tetchy, and he writes that every week, he writes in his book that we're sitting there on our computers looking, and he says, it's just a game. And you've got to remember that. You've got to remember this is here for fun. It is a game of rugby. It is not, world peace. It is not people. It's not worth getting too stressed about. It is. Having said that, it's easy to say that. I do get stressed. Of course I do. And sometimes feel really dreadful. But I try and take that attitude, and we do have a lot of fun. And when you've got Douse, who's up for fun, Lee Radford, who never stops laughing as a defence coach, and I'm keen for a joke as well. So it's, that's who we are. I think
Does it?
And I think that's a strength. I really do think that's a strength of us.
I agree. Do you reckon it flows through to the culture of the team when the coaching staff is a certain way? And do you think that's an important way to be?
100%. 100%. We are, yeah, hopefully a bit that comes through. And I think one of our big tenets that we have always had, and Boydie, who you know pretty well, started with him, was we've always tried to enjoy going to work as a group, as a whole collective, and try and enjoy every day. And some days are much harder than others, but we actually make time for that enjoyment and enjoying each other's company. So we have mini teams. I'm sure a lot of teams do this, where they've got 4 mini teams within our group that they challenge each other over the year and compete for points, a bit like a school house system. But some of the stuff we do is absolutely ridiculous. It's like, we've got people, if we're playing a French team, they might be eating a cheese and hamburger and necking a glass of red wine. And whoever does it fastest wins 2 points for their team. Some of it is utter stupid. But
when is that happening this week, Sammy? Are you doing that mid?
Well, do you know one that this goes out afterwards, doesn't it? Do you know what we tried to get this week and we've not managed to do it, unfortunately, was our kit man's a farmer, and our pitch has been it's the last game has already happened on our pitch. So what we were trying to do is get 4 teams, get 4 sheep and put them on the pitch. They're all in a meeting room, and then we come out of the meeting room and they're in their mini teams, and they've got 3 minutes, and at the end of the 3 minutes they had to have their sheep in their red-coloured homes or whatever. Unfortunately we couldn't make it work, but we strive to do lots of stuff like that.
Mate, well, it's still the captain's run on Friday, right? Like, you've got one more day you can get that. And sure,
no, well, we don't do that so much, and that's another thing we don't do. We don't do the captain's run anymore. We literally come in and because you don't get anything from that. That's captain's run is you spend all week. Oh, I've got an absolute pet hate about captain's run.
Oh, hit me with it. I'm the same.
You spend all week prepping to make decisions under pressure, and then on the day before the game, you take all the pressure away and you can run and pass the ball whenever you want. And that's in some way supposed to make you better. All it does is just tire your legs out. I don't like it at all.
Mate,
so what we do,
yep, you go.
What we do instead is we come in and we play little games. So we play football, tennis, or catching tennis balls off a tennis racket, or like loads of skill hand-eye bits. So I'll kick balls at people and they're just catching. Or very spike ball. Seen spike ball? Great game.
No, what's spike ball?
Spike ball's a little rubber ball, sort of yay size. You hit it against the net on the floor like a trampet.
Oh, yes.
You will have seen it. I'm sure you have.
Yeah,
Great game. So our front rowers absolutely love it. And they are, the day before a game, they are moving into low positions. They're watching a ball. They're watching timing of a ball. They're putting a hand to hit it up. It's perfect. It's exactly what hand-eye, being sharp of mind, is. But they're doing it, and they're all laughing, having fun and competing. So we don't do a traditional team run anymore.
Why isn't it funny that captain's run is a thing which has been a movement, isn't it? And then everyone just adopts it as what you got to do. It's lovely that you've just scrapped it and gone, what a waste of time.
It's a sort of those traditions. I'm sure you can say this a lot better than I'm going to say it now, but you do things just for the habit of doing them. And it's not there's no purpose behind it. It's just for tradition or we've always done it. Well, that's not a good enough reason to do something, is it? Yeah.
I had this great example of that when I coached some ladies that had never played the game before. And I said, do this warm up. And they said, why? And I said, because it's a warm up. And they said, yeah, but why are we doing it? And it was such a good question. And this was on as a young coach. I just reflected on that and goes, if you can't answer that question, why are we doing this particular thing? You shouldn't be doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, that is it. It's funny, isn't it? Those little moments that stick in your head. And I had an example of I was coaching, and I was actually doing it with Eddie Jones, and it was I was helping. I was talking to him about doing this stuff with the offloading. I think it's really good. And he said, "Oh, does it transfer to the pitch?" And I went, "I'm not sure." And he went, "Well, if it doesn't transfer to the pitch, why are you doing it?" And I was like, "That's a really good point." That's a really good point. I've just come up with this sort of whatever thing that I think's really good, but for what purpose? That's a real light bulb moment that stuck in my head.
Do you do anything in Northampton which is outside the box or different, do you think?
I think we spend a lot of time on the connection as a group. And so every backs meeting we'll play a game. Every single backs meeting. We win, we lose. Sorry, one a week. So it's usually our Thursday one. And we'll play a game, or we'll do a thing where the boys are presenting. So we do my life in 5 photos. That's how it sort of started, and everyone did their life, and some people took it on the wacky journeys, and some people did it quite sort of simply. Then we went through everyone. It was great fun, and we were learning about people, but people were getting up, standing in front of people for 2-3 minutes, and their voice was being heard. They were being listened to, and they had to organise it with the analyst to get the photos to the right place. All of this stuff, I think, is so important to connecting on the rugby pitch. And how can you do it? Connect off the rugby pitch and communicate off the rugby pitch if you want to be good at communicating on the rugby pitch. So then we went into passions, which was interesting. Ollie Slightholme did a thing on fishing, which was incredible, seeing his massive chub, which was like, we went in so many wacky places. Tom Litchfield, our young centre, talked about how one of his passions was murdering people and how he would do it. But literally, like, you can take it wherever you want. That was interesting. And then the one we've most recently done was our house. So we talked about our house as a bit of a theme for sort of our wide breakdown stuff. So we started presenting, and the only sort of stipulation was it was called our house. You could do anything with it. So people showed us around their houses, showed a house that they want to live in, or someone cool had lived in. And then the last one we did, we went in. Dingers had a key for George Fairbank's house, and we went and we broke in. He had the key, so we went in at 1:00 in the morning with Dingers, myself, Finn Smith, broke in with Dingers' girlfriend filming it, and woke him up. He had a thingy cannon. A cannon goes off, boom, pulls this confetti cannon all over. Third just, whoa, getting out of bed. What's going on? Dingers comes in, and then he gives him a quiz. So he starts quizzing it, and then it goes on for a few minutes. Then Finn goes in, and he gives him another quiz, and he has to guess who it is and all of this stuff. And Ferbs is like, "Oh, I'm just waking up." And then I walk in with a bucket full of tennis balls. I'm like, "Right, Ferbs, let's get better, buddy." Chucking tennis balls at him. It's like 1:00 in the morning, and it's all filmed. So we spend a lot of time enjoying. So that was the first sort of 5 minutes of our units meeting. But it's taken us some amazing places, and the bit that I think is so important is the social connection, the fact that you've actually got to organise something. You've got to speak to people, organise these things to happen, and it's all on you. That 3-4 minutes, whatever it is, at the start of the batch units. And people are going to laugh at you. They're going to take the mick out of you. They're going to enjoy it. They're going to cry. We've had all of those emotions. Honestly, it's amazing. And then but they're all the same things that we need to happen on the rugby pitch. We need to talk. We need to be able to organise we need to be able to, if you say you're going to do something, you need to do it and be there and do it. So yeah, it's been definitely something that we've spent an awful lot of time on. And you see, I love to see the people grow as leaders, talkers, presenters, all of that. It's great to watch, great to see.
Sammy, I think you're the first person that's actually broken down that connection that when you're doing things to communicate more off-field, connect more off-field, organise more off-field, improves all that stuff on-field. Like, if you're organising a slideshow and a presentation, like you're actually honing those skills, aren't you? And then it's leading to better organisation of you individually on-field. It's a lovely little connection piece because you get a lot of pushback sometimes on some of this stuff because you can't necessarily measure the impact that doing this presentation is having. Like a lot of people would argue, what's the relevance? How's it on field? But what you've just said there is communicating well for 2-3 minutes in front of the boys or girls up in front of the team is getting you better at doing that on field when something needs to be said.
Yeah. Problem solving, because you're inherently going to have a problem when you try and organise something. So you have to solve the problem. That's what you're doing as a as a rugby player.
Yeah.
Every single time you got your eyes up, whether you're attack, defending, got the ball, not got the ball, you're solving problems, aren't you? And
love it. And mate, how do you get that balance? Like you talked about, and this is probably an area where some coaches may struggle with this aspect, is you're prepared to go around at 1 o'clock in the morning to one of the guys' houses to help that connection.
Doesn't live very far away.
But how does that balance work? Because obviously you're the head coach. How do you place yourself there? Because obviously you've got to have those conversations about selection.
Yeah.
And
I have. That is tough. Having said that, Phil Dowson did give James Ram my keys, and he was in my house. So, and he did that. Who lives in a house like this, which is an old British program? I don't know if it translates to the Southern Hemisphere.
The mansion on the hill, Sammy.
He gave it. He did all. He was all like, "Oh, let's look at the acreage out there." But no, that is a fine line to. That is a tough one. I think you've got to be that person. I think I have to have some tough conversations, but I'm going to have that tough conversation, and it's not going to affect the fact that we can then go and have some fun in another room. Do you know what I mean? And they won't all be, on your side all of the time. I get that. And there'll be some resentment, but the longer we do it, the more consistently you are that person, and you are that. It's not I don't see it as a problem. You still have to have the tough conversations, of course you do. But I just don't think that should stop you enjoying your life. The players don't think you're doing it personally to them. It's not. It's a job. That's what we're here to do. And I like to hopefully always give them ways to improve, to give themselves the best chance of getting back in the team. And I'll always strive to help them do that. But you're dead right. It is I think that is probably the toughest part, or one of the tougher parts, certainly.
Yeah. Well, I think for you, probably particularly, that's a lot of your inherent personality, isn't it? Like you love that sort of stuff. So it's you being genuinely you, right? And I think everyone realizes pretty quick that you're not being. This is just everyone knows that's how you love that stuff. So it's easy.
Yeah, and I think that is that authenticity, which you have to be authentic. If you're not the guy who likes that, appreciate that other people perhaps do, and get someone to push the interaction, the presenting stuff. Do you know what I mean? I think it's important. And just because I do like it and I do enjoy the games, the connection stuff, still the best thing I've ever done was your bus tour, by the way. Do you remember that? You had the bus when we were traveling around. Were we traveling around Kibworth?
That's right. And we just all the
Yeah.
games at each stop.
All the games, we stopped in a field and 4 people bumped up. And what are they doing? We had to still don't know what those 4 people were doing. That was
That's
it.
right. That's right. That was in the day back in the day, Sammy, where there's no phones, right? So you didn't have to worry about people taking videos and photos along the way, because you wouldn't be doing
Like that.
those bus trips.
Well, why not? I mean, just make sure you're not, you have to be careful. Of course you do. But why not? It's fun, isn't it? It's like, why did you play rugby? You didn't, when your 10-year-old self didn't start playing rugby they missed us. I don't know. They played it because they loved it, and it's still
Yeah.
essence. They loved the camaraderie, and mate, honestly, you are probably still the world's best social sec. Give you that.
Love it, mate. Well, I think it's important for culture, mate. Like, and I'm a massive believer in that the environment you're in, affects the way you do stuff and the way you play. So, with that in mind, mate, we normally start with this question, but we've sidetracked. So, Sammy, what is your definition of culture? I love asking this question because everyone has different pieces to it.
Well, I saw this on the sort of things you sent me earlier, and I thought I might talk about. What a whopper of a question that is. I think I came around to in my head that culture is ultimately just a word, because everyone has a culture. It's bad, it's good, it's mixed, it's got all of those things in it, and everything you're doing, the ecosystem is a finely balanced bit that delivers this thing that we're going to call the culture. So I sort of started asking myself questions like, when I'm sort of asking your question about what is culture. It's like, would your culture? Would your culture allow mistakes? Does your culture allow mistakes? And on everyone's level, you could put a mark. It's a continuum, isn't it? Yes, absolutely. You can make as many mistakes as you like. Absolutely no. If you make a mistake, you are bombed out the session. And we all sit somewhere along that continuum. And I think you take 100,000 and loads of those elements, and we all sit on different parts of that. And it's the bits, the fundamental sort of tenant bits that within the important bits that we feel that we just nudge, that are really important to what we are, that ultimately gives you what you're sort of what you're after, isn't it? And so I think what the things that I've hit a few of them already. Like, we'd absolutely want to have fun. We absolutely want to be the hardest working team out there. They're two actually massively fundamental ones for us. We want to be connected, and we have our DNA, and one of the things that goes through our DNA is connected. We actually use DNA because the James Crick is actually a Northampton boy, so he discovered DNA, and he went to the local school.
Huh.
He then went to Leicester Uni, and that's where he discovered it. So it's a pretty cool fact, isn't it?
Very cool fact.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I know, it's just, I was thinking about an interesting question. I know the things that I want to see, or we want to see, is in our culture, and Douse is so good at this. And we have a sports psychologist as well, who we lean on. And Douse is very good at this, and we lean on this. And I know how I sort of what I really appreciate out of our culture, and so we do it. Do you know what, as well? When I was thinking about it, it takes, you have to nurture it. You have to go after it, and it doesn't always feel as organic as perhaps you'd like, but that's how you start to get to those places where people feel comfortable. Are people in your culture happy to be who they are? Ooh. Or are they trying to be who they think you want them to be? Or are they trying to be this? Because And I'm not saying either is right or wrong either, on any of these continuums, but you can manipulate one a little bit and it affects the ecosystem. But they are quite, everyone has them. If you want to have a really good culture of development skills, but every time the ball hits the floor, you're shouting, or, you're probably not going to, you're moving the ecosystem in the wrong way. You're not quite getting the balance right.
Yeah.
I mean, what's yours on? What's your definition? What's your sort of?
Oh, I mean, very similar to yours. I
I've waffled there for about 5 minutes. I'm sure you should do better than that.
Well, I'll come back to one of your points, but mate, I'm very much of ecosystem. I like the definition of culture potentially being the same as biology, like a yogurt culture, where it's an environment suitable for growth. So,
Yeah.
like, back in those old days, and if you used to do it, you used to make a yogurt before bed. We did in our house. You have one of those sachets, you put it in, you stir it up with water, you put a little culture starter in, you let it set overnight, and that bacteria's fed on itself and it's grown into this whole different thing, which tastes really good. And essentially, I love that concept of environment suitable for growth, like a petri dish. And a scientist is essentially putting stuff in that petri dish and seeing if it reacts to that ecosystem. And if it does, bacteria grow and grow and grow and feed on itself, become something different. Likewise, if you chuck something in there, the scientist, and it kills whatever's in there, and the environment dies. And the scientist is just basically working out what you add to that to make it grow differently. And then that's how it's an experiment. And I reckon we're the same as coaches, where our team is our petri dish, and we're sprinkling the little bit of difference in as the leaders, like sprinkle, let's see how that goes. Oh, yep, that took off. And whatever we did, like your games and your chasing sheep around the field, you don't know how that's going to connect the team, but you tried it. Oh, wow, look how everyone came together on that one. Or it could have the complete opposite in your environment, because each environment's different. And I think I like that analogy because it has a link to, biology and like sort of a science, because when you talk about culture, it's generally not considered science. It's considered sort of airy-fairy in a potential way, because you don't necessarily know what's going to happen. But it's like a science experiment.
Yeah.
Try a little thing, see how it goes.
Yeah.
But one thing you said, mate, you go.
Well, I say it is so not airy. I know exactly what you're saying, but it is so the most important thing. And at Leicester, when it was absolutely killing it, they had a culture and they knew exactly what that culture was, and they drove it so hard, and you knew what it was, and it was ultimately the thing that gave them all the success. But you can talk about it in an airy fairy, but it's so important. It is the most important thing. And I thought you can have bad cultures as well. Obviously, like I don't know if I should even say it. There was a really bad culture. I mean, the Nazis would have been a bad culture, would it not? I don't know, but like that was, but it's still a culture. Do you know what I mean? It's still, so the word it's just a word to describe the environment. It needs a good culture. Or culture that gives you growth.
I like your statement, mate, about, you said, like, a question around culture is, does your culture allow mistakes? Where does Northampton sit on that? Where's your philosophy on that? Do you allow them? Where on the continuum are you?
There are two types of mistakes for me. There's skill errors, that we can make skill errors. We can make skill errors all the time, because that's how you get better. So if you're learning to drive, you're going to stall a car. You can't expect it to just work perfectly straight away. And that's the same with learning anything. So if we're putting our skills under pressure, we need to accept and expect and hope for mistakes, and not be scared of making mistakes. So very, very important. And I think that's a really, really important bit. If you want people to get better, how you react to mistakes of that nature are vital or very important. And that's what people pick up on. The other type of mistake is not focused or not working back hard enough or not running hard enough or not, effort errors, you could term them as, or that sort of mistake. I'd go very, very hard at, and hold people very accountable to that. So I think there are those two, and I think you've got to manage them very differently.
How would you have managed, particularly the skill error? Like, how do you manage that?
I honestly think this is the biggest key to who you are as a coach. I think this is the key. This is the absolute iron test, and this is the absolute key of when mistakes are happening, how you react. Because if you can stand up in the front and say, I want to play the ball, we're going to play the space, back yourselves, all of these cool words. And as soon as you put it under pressure and the ball hits the deck, if you go, look after the ball, you've just lost everything you said. Everything you said. So I think that's such a... Do you know what breaks me? Just look after the ball. What are you saying to someone if you're saying that? You're telling them to make sure the ball's really tucked close to them. And if they're in any doubt, they're going to do this. But that's such a negative way of, learning how to play with the ball, how to manipulate a defender, whether to pass, whether to draw him, whether to carry, whether to all of those things. And the language I think we use around that and how we react to those bits is...
How do you tweak your language? Because earlier you said perceived pressure makes you go into your shell. And if that perceived pressure is the coach going, oi, look after the ball.
Yeah.
That's pressure. How do you do it? How do you do it?
I would sell it. So if we're trying, I'd celebrate the bit that they were trying to do. So if they're trying to catch the ball out there and they drop it and they fumble it and it doesn't quite go, I'd be that's a good mistake. We're happy with that. We'll actually celebrate the fact that they've tried to catch the ball out there. If they're running the line, we are getting better. We are getting better by putting ourselves under that pressure. We had a session on yesterday, and we were into this drill and we were doing it and it looked pretty, but it was at 60% and it looked pretty. It was like, oh, great, this is great. So brought everyone in, right, now we're going to do it 100 miles an hour. We're going to go as fast as we can. The first 3 times we did it, or the first couple of times we did it, we do one well, the next one, ball hits the floor, blah. I was like, right, boys, that last 30 seconds is the bit that's making us better. And like really celebrate, really go after that as we're working really hard. The skills, it doesn't really matter whether you're getting right, you're going to be getting better. What I really think you got to avoid is perfect rugby sessions. And as a coach, it's quite easy to want your session to go well. But what does that mean? What does you actually want? You want everyone to make the passes and, the world's not like that. Rugby is not like that. You need a good session should look chaotic, pressured, with some good bits. You have to have a good element of good bits and positive, but you have to have mistakes. Otherwise, there's just not enough pressure. And I think that's one of the sort of bits for coaches who perhaps aren't confident. You want it to look perfect. You want every pass to be on the money, and you've sort of got to get out of that mindset, I think.
How do you get more confident in that as a coach, Sammy? Because that's a reality as a young coach, particularly, you want them to be perfect because you're not confident. How do you get that confidence to go, yeah, I can handle, this is great pressure. I'm loving what's happening here. Is it just time?
Yeah. I think there's an element of time. But you've also got to, you'll see little bits of people when they're doing it under pressure, they'll get a little bit better, and celebrating the ones where you do get it, when you do get it right, or that person does get it right, and keeping hold of those in your head, and as long as the other mistakes are in the right vein, you've got to believe. I think you've got to believe it first, because if you don't believe it, you're always going to be, you're not authentic to yourself, are you? So I think the first thing is believe it, and then celebrate the effort of people trying to get better at it, not the execution of it, the effort of the pressure that they're under, and celebrate the fact that we're under pressure. We're so much better now because we've been under that pressure.
Love it. Celebration. There's a lot to be said about celebration. Good things. Well, Sammy, has it ever not worked? Like, have you ever had any moments around the culture on this side of stuff where you've got it wrong?
Yeah, loads of times. And I think you've got to own that as well. And, so your meeting goes wrong, or you try and set something up that you hope's going to stick with the boys, but it doesn't.
Any examples of that specifically? You would have put something out there for sure, which you went, ugh.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah, lots. Yeah, but do you know what? I'm a little bit water off the duck's back in a way, because I'm gonna put so much out there that some of it's gonna stick, I think. Yeah, there are, and then there are definite times when you get things wrong. From some of our stuff that we do doesn't always land, and it's 3-4 minutes of tedium or boredom, or it can be, it just goes wrong, and you think, all right, well, we can make that better, but own it, I think, would be probably what I would.
Yeah, I've seen you do that a lot, mate, where you just go, oh well.
Yeah. I think it's interesting I think people are scared of that on the coaching pitch as well. You expect everything to go really well, and you set up a drill, a game, or whatever you're sort of trying to do. Oh my gosh, I've done some dreadful stuff, but just own it. Right, I wanted to try and see if this worked. Boom, 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 boom. Well, that doesn't work. We're going to change this, and just go with it and be really open to making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. I think that is the best way to be better at coaching.
Yeah.
Stress yourself, try things.
Yeah. And that's a hard thing for a lot of coaches, particularly young coaches, to embrace the chaotic nature of coaching rugby, particularly, because it's not a closed skill sport. It's a chaotic.
I know. Yeah. And then I think, how do we coach it? Do we coach it in a closed nature? Do we put cones on the floor and tell people to go and stand on the cones? But that's true, isn't it? But we do it, and then we coach in a drill nature where we're going to give them 3 defenders on these cones, and then you're going to attack them. That's not a decision-making drill, because you've already.
Cones? Do you remove cones?
No, the cones are there to mark a pitch. I wouldn't. No, everything would be moving start points, because everything moves.
Oh, right. Okay, you don't use them at all. They just doesn't.
Well, I don't. Very, very, very rarely. Very, very rarely.
Huh.
Because the game doesn't ever start from a static point. There's never one point where you know exactly where the ball's going to be. Even a scrum moves this, and the ball probably doesn't come out anyway. Or even a line out moves up and down, doesn't it? It's never static. So to be in the right place, you have to make micro adjustments to be in the right place. So every little starter, rather than start on the cone, will be someone acting as a breakdown, and will move a yard left, a yard right, 3 yards forward, 4 yards back. So everyone has to adjust.
Yeah.
Because that's the nature of it, isn't it? And actually, to try and do as many things in an open environment as possible, because that's the nature. That's what you're running around in.
Yeah.
So I think you can't learn decision-making skills in a closed nature when the game is open, when the game is an open game of rugby, because most of the most of the learning, I think, around decision making comes from being able to see a 3-on-2 materialize before it happens. But if you're doing a drill where you've got 2 defenders on cones and 3 attackers here, you've taken all of that away. You've said this is a 3-on-2 and given it to them. It's like, if you ever do a breakdown drill, are you really doing a breakdown drill? And I'm not saying you do have to do breakdown drills, don't get me wrong, but if you do a breakdown drill, you have just told everyone in there that you are going to do a breakdown drill. When does that ever happen in a game of rugby? Because if I'm running next to you, Benny, you better be hoping thinking I'm passing you the ball. You know what I mean?
I do.
And if you're not, then, but obviously safety, skill of the skill element of a breakdown. I think breakdown is probably a tough one because you can't just go live at everything because we'd have broken bodies everywhere. But decision making, we definitely can. So a huge advocate for learning through games. I think you get a deeper learning. A context gives you a deeper learning. And then if I see, so we're talking about, I think this is how this links back to this being connected as well on the pitch, off the pitch. So if I'm playing a game and I can play a game of touch, I'm on the left of this breakdown, but I can see if I move to the right, I'm going to create that 3-on-2. So I've seen what's going to happen. I now need to communicate this to maybe a 9. I need to communicate this to the 12. I need to organize what they're going to do. They need to be organizing off me. They need to be problem solving. All these things, communicating that we were doing in the meeting room, and we're, in a very different context, but they're the same skills. They're talking to people. And I think that's why, I think that connects really nicely. And that's why I'm a big advocate for learning through games.
That's awesome. And even, I love it how you brought it back to like the off-field games and things you do. Because it flows, it connects, doesn't it? Right. Right, Sammy, I've got 2 more questions for you, brother, before we wrap up. And one of them is about you, mate. So you've obviously, a little bit of context for a lot of people, you're actually you obviously played a truckload for Leicester, 157 caps, a lot for Bath, 62, a couple of caps for England. But you also were a cricketer for Leicestershire, wicketkeeper batsman. You're a very handy tennis player. You're a musician, Slow Progress, the band, with a few other fellas.
I can't believe they've got a mention. That's epic.
Epic. And when I've actually been to one of your concerts, it was outstanding. But, mate, you've got a huge, like, off-field stuff yourself where you do a lot more. Now, do you think that's important for you as now into your coaching, that's this balance and perspective you've got in the rest of your life? And is it something you think's important for, professional sports people to have? Because it's not something which is promoted as much in a sort of era where you're specialising early. What's your for people on the balance?
I don't like the specialising early thing. I really don't like that, but that's probably a chat for another day. I think I certainly need to be doing other things away from rugby I think that's the way I'm a little bit wired. I had kids when I was, Johnny, but I had kids when I was really young, and coming home from work and having a real perspective, just getting some perspective with whatever I'd done at work, coming through the door and having some young kids, and I'm 22. Like,
different world.
It's a different world, and it's certainly, I think, kept me calm and level. I think that's what it does. I do still like to keep busy. I think that's very much my head. I think I think each to their own though as well. I wouldn't want to try and say that you have to. But I do like to, keep busy, learn a few things and read and all of that sort of stuff. But I wouldn't say it's everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, I think that's a very great point. You got to be.
Fortunately, I'm no better at the guitar. Although I do still try.
Mate, it was awesome. It was really awesome what you guys did. George Shooter, Ollie Smith, Dan Hipkiss. Love it. Righto, mate. The last question is one that I've been asking a lot of, and it's just, mate, you'll be a good man for this. What's one thing that you believe that you reckon your peers would disagree with?
Oh, I should have given this one some more thought. I think it's quite easy to overcoach people. And I think a lot of coaches would think more is better. And I'm becoming probably not less is better, certainly, but better and consistent is better. And I think that would probably be it.
Consistent is better.
Consistent is better, yeah. Rather than, I think and one thing that I don't think everyone would agree with, it's quite easy if someone makes a bad decision on a 2-on-1, showing them a 2-on-1, he could have done that, he could have done that. Well, ultimately, do they know how to pick off 2-on-1? And if they do, you don't need to have that conversation. You don't need to show them. And I think perhaps not the best example, but what it when you I think when you go after or talk to people, when you go after people's decisions, it's quite a vulnerable place. The people that are actually making the decisions on the ball are quite vulnerable. That if you say that's a bad decision, whereas so I think you have to treat that with kid gloves, and I think some of my peers perhaps would not, and I think I was guilty of this early on, that you show them every time they didn't make the right decision, rather than teaching them the global bit of, are you going at the line? Are you square? Are you looking at the cues of the defenders? Yeah. All right. Well, then you're going to make good decisions. You're going to make bad decisions, and we'll live with that and be consistent with that message. I think that's really powerful. And it's when you can, and I did this when I was starting out, showed a lot of clips of them not doing it well or making bad decisions. And actually, it just erodes that confidence to make decisions. And I think and I've sort of come up with this philosophy of what I want to try and help people be, and which is highly skilled, confident decision makers. That's sort of what I'm trying to grow and create. And the confident bit is way the most important bit of that. We've started talking in our backs group now about, I'd rather be decisive and wrong than right.
Oh yeah.
And people being decisive, people don't wait trying to get the right decision and be probably can't swear, be decisive. And like, we could give to whether we're getting it right or wrong. We'll have a look and we can look at some cues afterwards. But I think that's such a good place to play rugby from.
Oh, decisive and wrong is better than right a lot of the times, because it's the confidence piece.
Yeah. And you just do it. I mean, decisive and right is really bloody good.
Yeah. Well, that's the ideal. Yeah.
But don't worry about being decisive and wrong. Just be decisive. Don't waste time thinking of decisions, because the game happens so quick. Just go and do it and be it.
Yeah.
And then it's my job to put us in a million situations like that, where we're going to go and be decisive and right, decisive and wrong, decisive and wrong, decisive and right, decisive and right. And then over weeks and months, we're making way more decisive and good decisions than decisive and wrong decisions on the whole. Do you know what I mean? On the whole of that sort of.
Yeah, man. I think that's a big one because the more critiquing, like you said, you did earlier, the more you lose that decisive nature, don't you? Because they're second guessing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you ask anyone when you're playing at your best, it's not, you it definitely has the word decisive in it, or some form of clear, backing yourself, and you don't want to erode away at that. People are vulnerable on that decision-making stuff.
Sammy, what an absolute pleasure. I love that last statement, mate. Decisive and wrong is often better than being right. So love it, mate. Absolutely love it. Sam Vesty, what an absolute pleasure having you on this morning on the eve, or the 2-day eve of the Champions Cup final. And mate, it's always a pleasure catching up. Absolutely love it. Looking forward to this show airing the day after the final. Any predictions, mate, just to put it out there?
No predictions. I think we're going to go out there, and as I said, I hope we are free and back ourselves, and hopefully you'll see what that looks like. They're very good as well, so it's going to be a cracker.
Thank you, brother. What a privilege.